Welcome to the Future of Ground Transportation podcast, where we discuss the exciting innovations that lie ahead for organizational ground transportation. Each episode, we cover topics tailored to those resolving transportation-related challenges and provide tips, tools, and trends that will inspire you to stay ahead of the curve. And now, here's your host, Daniel Perez.
Welcome to the Future of Ground Transportation podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Tess McInerney. Tess is currently the head of people at DPV Transportation Worldwide. Tess has been now in the transportation industry for about 8 years. Tess, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Awesome. Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Tess. I, like Daniel said, have been in human resources and the transportation field for about 8 years. Started out in the recruiting sector. That's kind of where I thrive. It's what I love to do. I love dealing with people. It's kind of how I got into HR in the first place. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. So that's really what has helped me build the foundation for the amazing HR career I've had thus far.
Awesome. Thank you, Tess. It's a pleasure having you tonight. So, Tess, today we're going to be focusing for all the listeners. The main subject today is how to maintain and retain A players in the ground transportation sector. As we all know, has been one of the biggest challenges for transit agencies, for private bus operators, and for most of the companies in the transportation sector. So we would love to dive deeper, Tess. What are the current challenges? Actually, before we dive deep into the subject, tell us how you got started in the transportation sector.
Transportation sector. I have to be honest. Out of college, newly got my bachelor's degree. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just applying on Indeed. You know, at that time, back in 2010, I think it was, there wasn't many jobs to choose from. So it was really just what came up first. I started working at a paratransit company and just fell in love with the culture. You know, all the people, the excitement of recruiting drivers is one of my favorite things to do. So that really just fell on my lap.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing your insights. So Tess, as a female leader, how has it been for you in your experience in a work environment that is mainly predominant by males?
Sure. So a little personal history about me. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. So we've always kind of been outnumbered when it came to males. So it's something I am very much used to. I would have to say, you know, being a female leader in the transportation sector is difficult, right? Like you said, it's a male-dominated sector. However, I think I'm a little bit lucky. The HR kind of role is definitely more of a mothering type position where, you know, people come to me for advice. I'm not necessarily the one giving out the discipline. I'm not scolding people. It's really, I have best of both worlds, right? The respect, but also being able to care for all of the employees.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So with that being said, Tess, tell us a little bit about, again, what are you doing in the transportation sector to impact sort of the retention, keeping A players, and so forth?
Sure. So other than transportation, I mean, all the sectors right now, all different industries are hurting when it comes to recruiting. What we see on the news all the time is the transportation sector. The main difficulties we're having is the recruitment of chauffeurs, drivers, bus operators. Hold on, can we pause for a second? I'm sorry.
Yep, just start again.
Okay. Can you ask me the question one more time? I forget what it was. I was going off on a tangent.
It's 409. So Tess, let's go a little bit deeper again. So what are you doing in regards to recruiting and keeping and maintaining A players in the ground transportation sector?
Right. So it's definitely been a challenge more recently than not, right? I would say about 3 years ago, it was easy. It was easy getting candidates to just apply for the job postings you put up. It's not that simple anymore. You have to go out. You have to be thinking outside of the box. Right now, we're facing so many challenges when it comes to recruitment. One, there's so much noise in the market already. There's so many candidates getting multiple job offers at one time. So whatever company you're currently recruiting for, you need to make sure that they stand out. You're going after people who are probably employed. You're making sure that you're standing out.
So Tess, if I may, if I'm a driver or bus operator, what's gonna make me work from company A to company B?
Yeah, you have to stay competitive. I would say the number one thing you must put in your job postings or your message when you outreach to people is the amount of hours and the compensation, right? That's going to be the first thing people look at. Along with that is, benefits, perks, your company culture, but you want to make sure that all of your information that you're giving them is completely up to date and competitive with what's going on around them.
Totally. So let's just say company X is paying $1 more or $2. I'm wondering from your perspective and based on your experience, what is the best thing that we as leaders could do to retain the A players?
Yeah. So just to get them in the door, if you have a company that's paying more, you have to sell your company culture. People are looking for not jobs now, they're looking for careers, a place they can come to that they can develop. That chauffeur can become a supervisor, then to become a manager. You want to make sure that there's absolutely opportunities for growth for them.
Totally. Just yesterday I was listening to a seminar and McKinsey came up with this new research that really stipulates how employees are more tend to stay at companies where it aligns with their life purpose and values.
Absolutely.
So that is one of the things that we definitely have to keep embracing at DPV. All right. So with that, moving along the show first, tell us a little bit about dispatchers and reservationists. How's the market currently with dispatchers and reservationists?
Sure. Like any other position, there's absolutely a labor shortage. What we've been kind of doing to overcome that is hiring people that don't necessarily meet every single thing we're looking for. Some of the skills, you have to think about them and know that they're trainable, right? Something like customer service, that's hard to instill in a person. If they're coming to us with customer service experience, how they read a dispatch grid, that's trainable, right? So if they're a good person overall, all the hard skills we can teach along the way.
So how do you define a good person, Tess?
Well, a good person, right? As a recruiter, what I look for on any resume are people that have been at their companies for a long time. We don't like people who really jump from job to job. It makes me think that all the time and effort we put into this person, and then they're just going to leave us in a couple months, right? So we want to make sure that they look good on paper. We're looking at their resume. We're looking to see if they've done any training. I really like people who do training. That shows me that, they want to grow. They want to do things more than what they're doing right now.
Awesome. Got it. Yeah, so definitely, I totally resonate with you, Tess. Most of the time as a CEO, when I'm interviewing, not only I'm looking at them on their resume, but I'm looking at their emotional intelligence, the level of intellect, but most importantly, nowadays does this individual resonates with my values? Do they have the same values that I have, or most importantly, that the company has? So, what do you tell us a little bit about sort of aligning the core values with when you're recruiting for 100 or 50 drivers?
Sure. So one of my most favorite things that we have just implemented recently in the recruiting department is a hiring scorecard. This was taken from a book that we read as a group not too long ago, which I'll talk about later. But it's a hiring scorecard. It really breaks down all the hard skills, the soft skills that the position needs, but it also touches on the values, right? We want to make sure that each person that comes in, they're going to believe in those values. They're going to instill them. They're going to carry them on, and really display them throughout the company. So we definitely use that hiring scorecard to make sure the person fits.
Totally. Thank you, Tess. That's a great point. And then switching along with mechanics, what's your experience? What's the challenges that you're currently seeing?
Yeah. Mechanics are hard. It's very, very difficult finding, skilled mechanics with experience right now. Not too long ago, I was talking with a technical college, and they told me that 90% of the students coming to their programs already have jobs lined up for them when they leave. So recruiters are getting into those schools early to get them and really sign them on and make them come to their company when they're done. So it's definitely a challenge. I would say more so in the Boston area. I haven't had much of an issue in our other locations in the United States, but it's in the Boston area. It's hard.
It's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Totally. So moving along the way, the chain, Tess, what about C-level executives, whether they come from with the transportation background or from the logistics industry? When it comes to the C-level executives and management, what are your experience? Are you having the same sort of obstacles with this sort of caliber, or is it easier to find that sort of talent?
C-level. So C-level, I would say it's not as hard as mechanics. However, there's a lot more courting that is involved. What I mean by that is we use technology. So for example, LinkedIn Recruit, where I can go on and search for an individual, kind of filter them out either by location, skills, college, anything like that. So I already have a pinpoint search on how to target these candidates. However, majority of them are probably working. They're either at a competitor or, a similar company. So you're basically reaching out to them, making sure that your posting is good, that it's exciting, that you're grabbing their attention right away. From my experience recently, I get a lot of people that respond back and they want to hear about the position, but they might not be too serious about it. So it's really, making sure that you filter out those people who you don't want to waste your time on them.
Got it. And Tess, what is the area of especially with your expertise that you're more proud of, especially in the HR sector in this industry? What are you mainly proud of? Is it the technology that you're using to recruit? Is it sort of the systems that you have in place to make sure you're recruiting the right A players? Is it the culture? What is it that you're mainly excited about with the level of expertise that you bring to the table?
Sure. I would say it's definitely a mixture of everything you just said, right? Recruiting technology is ever evolving. I've tried things, I've loved it, I've hated it. I love creating kind of the job postings, which I've talked about quite a few times already, but making them exciting, but making them real, right? You need to have a posting that is big enough to grab their attention, but also truthful. You don't want to lie and say all these things, but you want to get the right person excited about the position and really believe in the mission before they even Google us.
Totally. Very well said. So let's switch the gears from recruiting to retention, and then if you could elaborate from the chauffeurs to management to C-level executives, based on your experience as an HR manager, leading obviously a ground transportation company that operates all over New England. What's your experience with retaining the right talent?
Sure. So that starts from the very, very beginning, right? It's you're setting up the employee for success, whether it's a cleaner, whether it's the CEO of a company. You want to make sure that you're starting out on the right foot. So that's where onboarding comes in place. Each level has a different onboarding process, right? Chauffeurs might be different from a mechanic that's different from a C-level executive, but it really starts out the same. You want to make sure that you really explain to them what your company, what the mission is, what their values are, how they play a role in that company, what our expectations of them are just from the very, very beginning. What we like to do, especially for managers and up, we send out what we call a briefing book. So it really gives them an idea of what the company is, some policies and procedures. It's different than a handbook, right, that has just words saying this is what you have to do. The briefing book gives them an overall idea of what company are you walking into? What is your day going to look like on a daily basis? Who are your people that you contact? So it already kind of puts them at ease. They know they have some pictures, stuff like that before they even come in. What we do too in the first week is make sure that everyone has a mentor, that they're introduced to the people that are their go-to people. They have the briefing book, they have the pictures, and now they've actually met the person in person. Yep.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Tess. And so, Tess, let's switch gears for a little bit. In regards to what is the best business book that you would recommend, especially in your space?
Sure. So there's so many, but I really, really like the book Who from Geoff Smart. It really, that's where we got the idea of the hiring scorecard and really aligning all of that to find the right A player. So, yeah.
Totally. And Tess, for all the listeners that are mainly private bus operators and bus companies, how has EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, has helped the HR department, you as a leader, helping with the culture and have impact overall in the organization?
Yeah. So EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is my most favorite thing that has ever been implemented at any company I've ever worked for. Got to be honest here and get a little bit personal. I run level 10 meetings at my house just because that's how it is. Right? I have my husband, my son. This is what we got to do, the agenda. It's great. It's really structured the HR department to ensure that everything that needs to be said is said. Right? There's a time and a place for everything. It has reduced significantly the amount of meetings that we have on a weekly or even a daily basis. So, and just being able to kind of measure employees from all over the organization just by one simple website. It's been amazing.
Totally. And what comes to mind, Tess, as well, and for all the listeners, every time that I have an issue, whether it's an operational issue, safety, customer service, and there's obviously there's patterns, and I need to evaluate that a specific associate, I always go back what under the EOS model is GWC. Does the person get it? Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity? And those three questions really help me clarify if I have the right person in the right seat, if it's the wrong person, or if I need to move them into another seat or / position.
Agreed.
Excellent. Yep. So Tess, how can all the listeners get hold of you?
So my email is on the DPV website. I believe with all of this podcast, I will be tagged on Instagram, on LinkedIn. But yeah, definitely reach out during LinkedIn. I'm always open to, questions or feedback for sure.
Perfect. Thank you, Tess. And again, for all the listeners, especially other HR leaders in the transportation sector, what will be the best advice that you have ever gotten, or that based on your experience, you could provide the best advice for them as they're either entering into the marketplace or they currently playing that role in the sector?
Sure. Well, I have to be honest. I mean, Daniel, you give me so much advice, today. It's always meaningful, but I think the one that resonated with me the most is definitely change your thinking, because it will change your life, right? Especially with recruiting and stuff, you have to think outside the box. It's not the same game anymore.
Awesome. I love it, Tess. I always say think outside of the box, But as one of my mentors says, what if there wasn't a box? What if we actually create the box, right? So really thinking outside of the box.
Yep.
Perfect. Again, this is Tess McInerney, head of people at DPV Transportation Worldwide. Tess, thank you very much for joining our podcast today. It has been a pleasure having you on our show. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the future of ground transportation. We appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you found value in this episode and want to hear more, please make sure to subscribe to the show.